I often get asked why it is that I place so much focus on millennial dads. Well, it's because I've come to believe that we are the most hated generation of men. A lot of us grew up without fathers. Either they bounced on us at an early age or they were taken from us at an early age. And some of us that grew up with a father in the home, he was either a cheater, a gambler, a drinker, or all three. Maybe he was just a workaholic and was just never there when it counted. The point is, a lot of us were ill prepared to be husbands and fathers. We were never taught by our own dads how to be real men, and sadly, it seems like their dads didn't teach them either. Let's discuss 4 reasons why millennial dads are the most hated generation of men and what we can do to combat this. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Alpha Dad Consulting. I am your host, G. Vidal, and on this show, we provide you as a millennial dad with all the tools and resources you need to create the family and business life you want. On this episode, we'll be talking about my generation of dads, millennial family men, and why we get such a bad rep in today's society. It seems like the previous generation hates us, and the next generation won't listen to us because they apparently can just Google everything. I want to give you 4 reasons why I believe that this is the case and whether we should care to do something about it or not. So, I was in a private Facebook group and I put up a post asking about this. Why it seems that millennial dads are the most hated generation of men. I stated that a lot of us within this generation were not raised with a silver spoon in our mouth, thinking that we're entitled to everything. In the post, the older generation of men responded with simply saying, because of posts like this. Honestly, I kind of thought that was pretty funny. This is a pretty funny response. Of course, they automatically assumed it was just some millennial whining about some shit again. Some of the other men said that they felt the same way, and they went on and stated their reasons. There was a guy that did a couple of tours in Afghanistan, said he witnessed and experienced things that not even older men would be able to handle. I thought that was intense, and some other guys were just kind of arguing with each other about who was right and who was wrong, arguing over which generation of men is the toughest. To me, that's not really that important to me. I'm not really interested in being the toughest generation. I'm more interested in finding out why it seems like we're the most hated and screwed up generation of all time, and what we can do to actually change it. So here's my first reason. Reason number 1, we were sedated. We're old enough to know what life was like with and without the internet. Think about that. When I was a kid, I played outside with sticks, pretending that it was a gun or a sword. If we needed to call somebody, we had to have a landline in the house, and guess what? Only one person in the damn house could be on the phone at one time. When my mom was on the phone for hours talking to her chismosas, I had to wait for her to get off the phone so I could call my sucias. Just playing, maybe. Anyway, right around middle school, the internet starts becoming a thing. We get our first home computer and dial-up internet. Some of you watching or listening right now are nodding your head because you remember this shit. That annoying dial-up modem where you had to make a public announcement letting everybody in the house know that you were about to connect to the internet. And the phone line will not be available. What a different time, right? Fast forward some years, you got MySpace, Facebook, YouTube, video games, Wi-Fi, smartphones, social media, music, and movie streaming. Literally insane how much we've advanced in the past 20 years. Yet at the core of all these technological advancements, we've been the guinea pigs. We were the target market every time, and we ate all this stuff up. Convenience after convenience, and what you get now is the result of the experiment. We are consumed by distractions to the point where we can't even focus on menial tasks. Some of us can't be without our phones for extended periods of time. We sedate ourselves with video games and easily accessible porn. binge watch hundreds of shows, and then spend the majority of our time talking about those shows, spouting theories about what's going to happen to the characters after the show has already ended. Then we watch reviews on those shows because, of course, we need another opinion from a YouTuber to tell us how to process the show we just watched. And I say we because I'm right there with you. I'm just now waking up to all this bullshit because not all of this stuff is serving you or improving your life in a real way. The trippy thing is that the older generation gets on us for being so dependent on the technology that they invented. How jacked up is that? Steve Jobs was not a millennial, yet he invented the device that we now can't live without. Yet it's his generation that hates on ours the most for our dependence on technology. It's just kind of ironic. Number 2, the victimhood mentality. Now, this is something that absolutely pisses me off. The culture that's been festering in our generation is this idea that the biggest victim wins. He who has been oppressed the most should be given the biggest handout, as if this is some kind of competition. We got some men in my generation right now wanting reparations for some shit that they didn't even go through. It's like me asking for reparations for all the family members my family lost in El Salvador during their civil war when they were recruiting little 10-year-old boys to go to war. I have friends whose dad was shot right in front of them as kids during that time. The trauma they had to undergo seeing that, where's their check? Guess what? It ain't coming. You want to know why? Because no one gives a shit. Every single person has been through some hardcore trauma, trial, and tribulation throughout their life, some worse than others. I'm not belittling what's happened to you. What I'm saying is that you don't get a trophy just because this crazy shit has happened to you. It's about what you do from this point forward, about making something of yourself despite the hardships you had to endure to get to this point. Stop playing the victim card and blaming someone else for your situation. Winners don't sit around waiting for handouts. They get to work, especially if you live in this country. There's other people in the world wishing they had the freedoms you have. And you're over here clinging to your victim card like some badge of honor. And don't give me the whole they try to keep minorities down bullshit. I grew up in horrible ass neighborhoods with gangs and all that. Didn't even go to college myself, and I'm making more money now than many of my educated colleagues. You think Kobe or Shaq thought they had less opportunities just because they're black? If you're Hispanic, have you seen how Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo grew up? You think they played the victim card to get to where they're at? No, they didn't. They just handled business and saw no limits. If somebody came along and told them they couldn't do something, they proved them wrong. Time to stop letting this victimhood mentality be the loudest voice in the room. Number 3, lack of masculinity. This is another area where our generation is lacking. It's like a damn Mortal Kombat game. Our spines have been ripped out and they took our balls along with them. This is something that I know for sure pisses a lot of the older generation off. Especially because a lot of them were fighting wars at 18. Talk about having to grow up quick into manhood. Nowadays, we have millennial men being offended if you get one of their 26 pronouns wrong. I mean, come on, literally no backbone. Even comedy is not the same anymore because of this whole cancel culture going on. Pretty soon, they're not going to allow us to speak at all, just because the risk of offending someone is too great. It's literally insane. And the sad truth is, we've allowed this to happen. Our generation of men should have taken more charge, but we were too busy being sedated, distracted, getting pumped up, and indoctrinated with all the bullshit that we allow to happen today. I've met men my age that can't even handle confrontation or a heated argument. Men that are too scared to watch a horror movie because they'll get nightmares. Newsflash, bruh. The movie is fake. Men that when something goes bump in the night, they send their wife to go check it out. Now that is what I call a bitch move. Dude, go to the shooting range. Take a martial arts class. Gain some freaking courage for the love of all that is holy. Be a man. Embrace your masculinity. It is not toxic. It is necessary. Weak men hate strong men because they're too afraid to do what's necessary to become strong men. But when the shit hits the fan, they're very quick to call on the strong men to come defend their ass. Your masculinity is not a curse. It's a blessing. The more you suppress it, the more out of alignment with yourself you will be. Go out and do some man shit. I don't even have to tell you what that is because you already know. Just go and do it and stop making excuses. Number 4, a weak mindset. This is where it all comes from right here. Ever since we were in school, we've been taught that we were special. We were taught that whatever authority is over us always reigns supreme. We were taught that as long as we obeyed that authority, we would somehow magically be successful. They told us, hey, you're special. Go to school, go to college, get your degree, make something of yourself. If you don't get good grades and go to college, you're never going to amount to anything. We were conditioned to be afraid of failure and making mistakes from an early age, even though it's in our failures that we learn the biggest lessons. This led us to develop a weak mindset, a series of false limiting beliefs that followed us into adulthood and plague us even now. Some of us are stuck in dead-end jobs right now and feel like you can't make a move because you didn't go to college. You literally believe that if you don't go back to school, you can't get a better high-paying job. So you don't make a move because you don't believe you were a good student. You don't think you're smart enough or capable enough. You feel secure in what you know, even though you hate it. It's much more terrifying to plunge into the unknown, right? Our beliefs are all screwed up. We think that everything wrong with us is set in stone. So you say things like, I'm bad at writing, I am bad at reading, or I am bad at maintaining focus, I'm bad at learning new things. You place these false identities on yourself and they become ingrained in your core. Yet you don't realize that you can change these beliefs about yourself. Stop putting yourself down. There's enough people in society doing that to us men right now. Why join them? Guys, enough is enough. As much as I've seen men in this generation be weak, I've also seen some amazing millennial dads rise up. Because the great thing about this is that you don't have to remain this way. Every generation of men seems to always think that the next generation is somehow weaker. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Their perception of us will always be a generalization based on what they see. It doesn't really matter what they think. But what does matter is the impact we have on ourselves, our families, and ultimately the mark we leave on this world. Sedation, victimhood, lack of masculinity, and a weak mindset are not the things that are going to allow us to do that. If you fall under any one of these camps, it might be time to let it go. If you want a good place to start, go to alphadadconsulting.com and check out my free workshop where I share with you some tools that can aid you in making these changes. Again, that's alphadadconsulting.com. I hope to see you there. That is going to wrap it up for this week's episode. I hope you got some value out of it. And if you did, please share this with someone that needs to hear it. Until next time, my fellow Alpha Dad.